at to see who I interacted with here. Some of you have discovered that if you're not from this area, that if you're not connected with somebody from the area, then people are very skeptical of you or kind of shut you out and all that kind of thing. You know, they ask you what high school you went to, and you name some high school in New York or Baltimore or someplace else that's not in this area, and there's no reference. It's like, so my interview was going like that because I couldn't identify with any of his references. Do you know so-and-so? Are you connected with this organization? And all of that. And so I kind of, because I was in the moment, I wasn't thinking about bills, wasn't thinking about all of that stuff, I was able to recognize in the moment that he is kind of challenging where I'm coming from. He's not getting me. He's just asking me a series of questions. I'm not giving him the answers that he's looking for. And so I kind of stopped and said, sir, let me just say something for a minute. And I said, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I'm not out to prove anything to anybody. I'm a team player. And the reason why I gave him that answer, because I could tell by the types of questions he was asking that he was trying to find out, what kind of person am I? Am I just in it for myself, or will I really work well with a team? Yeah. And so I wanted to relieve all of the tensions, because here's this guy, I was 46 years old, hadn't been in an interview in 17 years. And some of you are like that. Last job you were there 10, 15 years. And you haven't done a job interview in so long. It's like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. It's like trying to start dating all over again. I don't even know who's out there, what's out there, what the protocol is, what are you supposed to say, what are you not supposed to say. And it was an awkward interview for me like that. And some of you, your interviews are awkward like that. And so what we're offering to you is just some of the ways to kind of step back in the moment and hear the questions that they're really asking. And take the pressure off of yourself that if I don't land this job, then that's the end of the world. Because we are, all of us, we're facing deadlines. And so you're looking at, I got a mortgage to pay, I got a car payment to make, insurance to make. If I don't get this job, then all of these dominoes are going to fall. And so, but what you don't realize is you're carrying all of that pressure into the interview. And they don't get to see who you really are. What they are interviewing is your pressure. What they're interviewing is your crisis. But they're not interviewing you. So you have to kind of step back and say, okay, I want them to know who I am. And if I get a rejection, if I get a no, if I get a turn down, I don't want it to be because they really don't know who I am. I want them to know that who, and even if there is a no, you know, if you totally present who you are and the answer is still no, then maybe you're just not a good fit there. Because here's another side. Some of you have been here before, you know, in the places where you really, like after a couple of weeks, you're like, I got the wrong job. I'm in the wrong place. And then you're stuck and you'll stay there for 3, 4, 5 years. And the whole time you keep thinking back to, I really should have. I should have said, I'm out of here. But again, we got bills, we got pressure. And so one of the things that we do as life coaches is really just to encourage people to go ahead and really think about your life, not just in terms of going from one job to another, but really, who am I, what am I really, what's my real purpose in this life? Why am I really here? Now, our life coaching is based on, I will put it to you in this way, it is faith-based, but I always like to take it a little bit further and tell you that it's spiritual-based. Meaning, when I say spiritual, I don't mean religion and all of that kind of thing. What I really mean is, I believe that every single one of us was created by God. I believe that there is a creator and that he created all of us and we're not here by accident. And so there's a real purpose for us being here. I believe we're all created in the image of God. And part of that image is creativity. There's a reason why when there's a crisis, human beings just step up and start helping each other. And that's because we're created in the image of God. that desire to help and love people and do the best I can to reach out to other folks. It's just that we don't always want it to be crisis that brings that out. But the reason why that comes out is because that image is inside of us. And so there's more to life than just, and I always end most of our sessions with saying this, there's more to life than just going to work to pay bills and then you die. There's more to it than that. And so sometimes it will mean doing more than just living your life from just one job to another. Many of us have dreams inside of us. We've had them since we were kids. Some of you started off trying to fulfill that dream, whether trying to go to school, going to trade school, going to college, and you were never able to finish. But do you know that you can still fulfill the dream even though you didn't finish school? Even though you didn't accomplish all of the steps along the way? Because the dream is not always necessarily just to get the career that you want. The dream really that's inside of all of us is to be the type of person that makes a contribution to this world. And it's a meaningful contribution. And that contribution can be in your family, it can be among your friends, it can be in the neighborhood, it can be in the community, and even for the jobs that you're going after. You're not just going there just to get a paycheck. You're going there to make a contribution. When we're working in somebody else's company, we're contributing to their dream. We're contributing to their dream. We really are. But I also believe that whatever you sow, you're going to reap. So you sowing good things into somebody else's dream, then guess what? It's going to happen to you. Somebody's going to sow into your dream one day. That's really how it works. And so when you take that kind of bigger, broader view of why you're here and why you do what you do, it really does help us in this difficult, trying process of trying to find a job, to pay my bills, to get out of debt. I'm just trying to give you some bigger picture view of all of this. Now I'm way off script today, but I just felt like I needed to say that to you guys today, because there's so much that's happening in all of our lives that it can really get just really painful. You don't have to raise your hands, but it's tough to get up in the morning sometimes to get back out there looking for a job. Some of you have probably said to yourselves several times, I don't feel like going out there and facing the rejection. Because it does affect our self-esteem. It does affect the way we view ourselves when you have another human beings reject, and I really should stay away from the word rejection, but it just feels that way. It feels like a rejection when another human being says, you're not qualified, or we did not choose you. And sometimes we walk out of interviews and man, you interviewed great. And you know you got that job. And then you get the call that says, no, we chose somebody else. And of course, if you're like me, you want to know, why did they choose them? What was so great about them? But do you know, and I've been on this side of it, there are sometimes folks interview, you can have 2 or 3 candidates that are just so good, it really is nothing more than the flip of a coin. Because they're all qualified. They all have the qualities. They all have everything that you're looking for. And there's nothing but a toss of a coin, heads or tails, because they're just so evenly matched. And so even when there's a no, when you know you should have gotten the job, I want you to know that sometimes the way fate works. Now, somebody said, I don't believe in fate. Well, I believe that there are certain things that happen a certain way for a reason. And I've had too many times, I'm 56 years old now. Thank you for that compliment that said you don't look that old. I'll just receive that silent compliment. But there's just been so many times I've been here on the planet, enough revolutions around the sun, and that's how I think of it now. It's not age. I've just been on the earth for 56 trips around the sun. Some of y'all remember that. First time somebody called you old, just say, no, I'm not old. I've just been on the planet, been on the merry-go-round for a few more times than you, that's all. But I've been on this planet long enough to just see that there have been so many times when I got a no, I got a turn down. someone did not choose me, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened. Some of you have lost jobs and it was the best thing that ever happened. And I know it's tough right now to hear that. Some of you that recently have lost a job, I know it's hard to hear that. It really is. But sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is for you to be forced into the transition to the next level for your life. We can all get kind of stuck in a rut. You say, but I like my rut. My rut was paying really good. But you can be stuck in the rut and it's safe and secure, but you can be drifting away from your dream because you're staying in that area that's secure. Some of you may have seen that video clip by Steve Harvey where he talks about jumping. If you haven't, please Google it. Steve Harvey talks about jumping. Very, very powerful. He was just sharing with the audience at the end of a show. And he talks about how everybody likes to kind of stay where it's safe. And you see other people soaring and they're going forth with their careers and things are happening. And he says, but the reason why they are is because one day they took the leap and they jumped off the cliff. He said, now, they have a parachute on. He said, now your parachute may not open right away. But you'll never find out what it's like until you actually try. I can't tell you how far off script I am today. I guess I may not even get to the script today, but I just feel like I need to say these things to you guys. It's worth it to take the leap, to take the jump. And sometimes you get pushed when you lose the job. Sometimes you get pushed off the cliff. But I'm telling you now, don't just take the fall without trying. Don't hit the bottom without ever trying. Go on the interviews, do the things that are necessary, like come into Job Club. Stay out there in real life. If some of you, you're the type of personality that when things go wrong, you like to kind of withdraw and pull back into yourself and just stay at home and go on a Netflix binge. But stay out here in life. Don't retreat into your shell because you're going to miss out on some very necessary connections that you're going to need. All of the people and all of the connections may not lead directly to the job, but the connections will be that you'll be obtaining wisdom and information, advice, counsel that's going to prepare you for the next place that you're moving to. So many times advice has come our way. You know, sometimes when you're looking for a job, the only thing you want to hear is, who's hiring? But we've learned that there's a lot more on the line than just who's hiring. There's different nuggets of the wisdom that you need along the way. And that's a good lead in. I won't go through all of this with you guys today, but these are some of the nuggets that are going to help you when you're in a tough transition. Relationships, readiness, revelation, riddles, respect, results, repairs, and resources. When it comes to relationships, one of the nuggets that you have to always think about is, I call it equity. A couple of times my wife and I have been homeowners, and we had to get work done on the house, and so we would call in. We wanted to get a second mortgage made on the house so that we could get some repairs done. And so what they do is they bring in an appraiser, looks at your house, evaluates, looks at the damage, but still looks at the value that you have, and then they'll send you this long report that says, you know, here's how much your house is worth. Now, whoever you're trying to get the work done, you usually have to borrow the money from a bank or a finance company, and so they'll take that appraisal and then they'll, you know, subtract how much you still owe on the house, and so then that gives them a pretty good estimate as to how much more money you could borrow, and that's called equity. Equity is being able to find the value in your house or car or property, be able to see the value in spite of the damage. And so when it comes to relationships, you have to do the same thing. You have to look at relationships in an equitable way. And the reason why I bring this up is because when we're in a hard time like this, it's really easy to take relationships for granted. people that are closest to you, because the only thing you're thinking about is, I gotta get my bills paid. And it actually strains our relationships. The people that are closest to you is often very strenuous times between me and my wife, when one or the other of us, or sometimes both of us, not working. It gets really tough. Some of you, that may be part of the pressure that you're walking into the job with, or walking into the interview with. The pressure of what's happening in your relationships. Because it's not that interviewers aren't thinking about all of that, but that is part of the equation, isn't it? If you just had a fight with your significant other just before going on an interview, oh my goodness! And so here's the nugget of wisdom, and that is, still think about the value of our relationship. We might have some damage right now, but it's still worth it. It's still worth it. We'll get it straight when I get back home. Yeah, I'm sharing this with you to kind of give you a little piece of nugget as you're going into the interview. There's still equity with what we got. Yeah, and with all of my relationships. Another one is readiness, and I call this living life by design. The purpose of life is to live a life with purpose. Always remember this. The purpose of life is to live life with purpose. I believe we need to live life very intentional. Be very intentional. Don't just kind of wake up in the morning and, well, whatever. I'll get some breakfast at some time. Even if stay in the bed up till 1, 2, 3 o'clock. Because it gets really depressing when you're in this. But stay intentional. Especially those of you who have first or second shift jobs. Stay on the same schedule that you were on when you were working. Don't fall back into whatever. Don't. Stay intentional. Get up. Use this extra time to, if you're able to, go exercise, walk. All those promises you made yourself when you was working and you said, man, if I wasn't on this job, I'd be walking, I'd be getting in shape. So work on some things like that. Work on some of those other goals that you had. That's what I mean. Stay intentional. Because you never know. You could be getting yourself in shape for the next job. You get the next job and it's some job where you got to be up and walking and going from floor to floor, and you're not just sitting at a desk. Yeah, so you could actually be getting yourself ready for the next place that you're headed to. The next one I call is, you need wisdom. All of us need wisdom for revelation. And I asked the question, who told you so? This is a picture of a plane crash. This is the plane that was, some of you remember the R&B singer Alia. And her story kind of got lost because a couple of weeks later 9/11 happened. But a couple of weeks before 9/11, she died in this plane crash. And she was very, very popular, for those of you who might remember her back in the day. Yeah, very, very popular. But in the Bahamas, they had just done a video shoot, and they needed to get back to America. And so they loaded up the plane, and the people that were loading the plane said, you guys got too much stuff. Your plane is overloaded. And so if you're going to carry all this stuff, then everybody can't get on this flight. And so they were like, no, go ahead, we're going to go ahead and do it, we're going to do it. And so against the advice of experts, they got on that plane with all of their stuff, and the plane crashed on takeoff. Yeah. So what am I talking about when I say who told you so? There is some advice that comes to us in critical moments. Please take the advice of people that know what they're talking about. Sometimes we don't take warnings for what they are. We think it's just their opinion. But it's not their opinion. It's their expert advice. And they're not trying to hinder you. Now, I'm not saying that she made the decision, but somebody did. Somebody made the decision to go against expert advice because we've got someplace we got to go. We got to get there. Yeah, but you want to get there. The issue is, I actually want to get there. So you don't go against expert advice to try to meet your goal. Sometimes expert advice, yeah, it does mean I'm going to have to take an extra step. It's going to take a little longer. Yeah, it would have taken longer. They may have needed to go in 2 trips instead of 1, but everybody would have got there. And I've learned in my life that most of the time, expert advice always ends up making us slow down, take longer, but we don't want to, because again, the same thing. I got bills to pay. I got things to do, but I'm saying to you, don't overload your plane with all of the extra pressure, all the extra stuff, and keep trying to take off and soar anyway. When you've got people that, it can be anywhere from a life coach like me to a family member that's just kind of saying, some of you may have had this, some of the family members saying, slow down. Anybody had that? Slow down, take a moment, think about what you're about to do. And we live in such a now generation, from TV commercials to internet. Everything is now. But those of us who've been on the planet a few revolutions around the sun, we now know that it's really best to stop, think about it, count up the cost, really see how this will work for me and for us. So who told you so? Next revelation we need is riddles. We need nuggets of wisdom for riddles when my world is shaking. Oh man, and that's really what's happening with all of us in the room. When your world is shaking, what in the world do you do? The reason why I use this is because the word riddles, the word riddle is, as we all know, a riddle is a question that's kind of has a clever answer, but it's kind of a trick question and all that kind of thing. But another word for riddle means to sift. Some of you may be familiar with flour, how wheat is sifted, and so that's the word for riddle. It's something that sifts you. And so it's shaking you, but it's sifting out the stuff that doesn't need to be there, so that you end up with, just like with wheat, you come out with pure flour, and it doesn't have chaff in it, and doesn't have bugs in it. My dad used to work for Pillsbury for 30-something years, and his job was sifting, unloading trucks and sifting the wheat. And there's this huge machine that was just vibrated and shook violently, and its total job was sifting out, and I never knew this. He said it's not only sifting out chaff, but it's sifting out bugs, insects that you don't want. So what am I saying? Some of what you're going through that's shaking your world right now, it's sifting you. And all the negative stuff that's been there for a long time that you don't want to carry into your next phase of life. So yeah, you're being shaken right now, but it's okay. Even let this season, your transition that you're in right now, let it sift out all the negative feelings about the last company, why they let you go, the negative encounters that you had with employees and supervisors, or if some of you were in supervisory positions with people that were under you. Let this time and season of your life sift out all that negative energy. Don't carry those memories and those situations into your next place. Next one I call is respect, or another word that's sometimes used is reverence. You see this question, have you ever been in love? I always tell the story of how in the early days when me and my wife first met in college, it was after about a week of classes. We're all new, getting to know each other, and everybody got together and we was all going to go out to, I hate to say this word, a disco. You haven't heard that in a long time, have you? Well, I couldn't dance, and that was really awkward for me to be going to, I put it in today's term, to go to a club because I couldn't dance and all that kind of thing. I felt embarrassed, and so I said I wasn't going. I was the only person that wasn't going to go. And so she looked across the room and saw me make that decision, and I didn't know how she felt about me at the time, but then she stayed behind with me. And the rest is history. But I always reflect back on that because we asked that question, have you ever been in love? Have you ever been in love to the point where, like the girl who was to become my wife, you will go against the decision of everybody else you'll go against the decision of everybody else. So she went against everybody else's decision to hang out with me because she was in love. Now, how does that relate to us today? Please remember the people that you really do love. When you're in a crisis like this, it gets very, very easy to take out the pain and the frustration on them. Stay in love. Keep your respect for the folks that they really are for you. Even the one that keeps asking you, did you find a job yet? Oh, don't ask me that no more. But keep your respect. Stay in love with your spouse, your significant other, even with your kids, those of you who got children. Stay in love. Don't lose that in the midst of this madness that you're going through right now. Next one is, I call this results, or reality is no TV show. Nuggets of wisdom for results. We live in a world where, of course, with all of the reality TV, it gets kind of tough to distinguish what's real and what's just a setup. And I do hope you understand that as you're watching a lot of the reality TV, that it's like pro wrestling. Because you have to understand that they've got a camera set up. You're not just sitting there watching something and it's just all unfolding. No, think about it. There's a cameraman, there's a person with a camera that's sitting there showing you what's going on. So all of the reality TV is not necessarily reality. That's what I mean. When we first came out with reality TV, it was things like people capturing moments that were for real happening on the street or in a department store or whatever. Somebody just turned on a camera and they happened to capture a moment, and that used to be reality TV. But now when reality moved into setting up a scene, and maybe these people really are having a real conversation, but somebody still set it up and said, I want y'all to talk about such and such. And so there's not scripted, but they at least set it up. So why am I bringing that forth? Because you live in reality. You live in the real thing. This isn't a setup. And so treat it that way. This isn't a setup. Nobody's holding a camera and filming everything that you're doing. This is real life. And that reality, one of the things that I hate about what we're watching is that there seems to be a real struggle in this world today with many people being able to accept the reality that they're in. So it's like, just come to grips. And some of you, that may have been your process over these last few weeks or months or however long you've been unemployed. We all go through a process, and you'll see this in psychiatry and psychology. There's a grieving process that you're going through. When you lose a job, no, it's not the same thing as the grief of a loss of a loved one, but there's still a grieving process, and we all go through it. You go through anger, you go through denial, you go through sadness, you go through what's called bargaining. You wake up some days and I know you've probably been through, like, I can't believe that this really has happened. And you may have even felt crazy. Is something wrong with my mind? The reason why I can't seem to accept this reality? No, that's just, you're going through a grieving process. That's real. And you may feel a little weird. You're like, well, it's not like I lost a loved one, but you're still grieving. Anytime there's a loss in our life, we go through a grieving process. Go ahead and go through your process. That's part of what makes interviewing so tough, because there you are trying to start over, move on, and you're trying to work through this grief at the same time. And so part of what's going to help you through the grieving process is what I'm giving you now, just this nugget of just understanding that this is normal. It's okay. It's okay to grieve. You would say that if you were speaking to someone that did lose a loved one, you put your arm around them and they're crying, and you would say, go ahead, let it out. It's okay. You're going to get through this. Yeah. And so here I am, just a life coach. Maybe I can't come around, put my arm around everybody and say that, but I want you to kind of feel this from me, that we're saying it's okay. You're really is okay. Life isn't going to always be the way it is now. Remember back 10, 15, or even 20 years ago when before you got the last job and you were wondering how in the world am I ever going to, well, you're going to have success again. The next one is called repairs. Doing good. This is the seventh of the 8 nuggets. Repairs I always have to take a moment before I tell you this. This nugget comes out of a very, very deeply personal issue for me and my family. I had a brother who passed away back in 1999, and at the time of his passing, well, he died of HIV, AIDS, and he didn't confess or admit until the last months of his life that he actually was gay. And so it taught our family a lesson, because we were like, well, why didn't you just tell us? Why don't you just come out and just tell us? Well, it's because, I don't know how many of you guys remember, back in those days, if you had a family member that was gay, or a family member that was HIV positive, or that it was just shunned, they would just kick you to, you're out, you're dead to me, all of that. And so he was afraid that would be our response to him. And I can't say to you now that may not have been our response, because we didn't even get the opportunity. But by the time he told us, he was already sick. He didn't have but a few months to live. But we did get a chance. I remember me and my wife, we went into the hospital room and we got a chance to tell him, love him, doesn't matter, we just love him. I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity. Now here's the biggest lesson that we learned out of that, and that is, everybody has got something inside of them that they're struggling with. Everybody does. Don't forget that. Everybody's got something that they're struggling with. And so I remember I got a chance to be one of the people that spoke at his funeral, and I realized this is the kind of the understanding that I got. Everybody's got faults. Everybody's got faults. Now, when you say the word fault, it doesn't mean something. It doesn't all. Of course, if you come from a religious background, I'm sorry, I might destroy your definitions. But fault is not always talking about something that you did wrong. Fault is simply just like the earth. Remember the parts of the earth that have these fault lines, where there's greatest potential of earthquake. It's just a place where you're really weak, or a place where you cave in under pressure. That's all a fault is. So when you go to church and everybody's saying things like, confess your faults, to one another, well, actually, it doesn't mean go around telling everybody, I did this wrong, and I did that, and I did this, and I did that. No, it means be willing to find somebody that you can confess, like I would to my wife. I don't just simply say, I'm sorry for yelling at you. I apologize for screaming at you. No, actually confessing the fault would be, I'm sorry for yelling at you, but the reason why I do that is because every time I'm under this pressure, can't find a job, frustrated about it, then I always blow up. See, that's the fault. That's my weak place. That's going a step further. So that's what it really means. And so the nugget of wisdom for you is to be willing to be a type of person that's willing to bring repairs to when people are telling you, or even with yourself, this is really where I blow up. It's not just the fact that I blow up, or I cave in, or I get quiet. Some of you, your response to the pressure of your unemployment season has been silence. And the reason why you've been silent is because you feel like, if one more person asks me, so you'd rather get my silence than get my wrath. But be willing to confess your fault, or talk to somebody that you feel confident with in saying, here's really the real deal. I'm frustrated. I know I keep getting quiet on you, or I keep blowing up on you, but here's the reason why. I'm sick of looking for a job. I'm tired of these rejections. That's what's really going on with me. Yeah. And the last one is resources. Please be willing to receive the resources that are available. Just the very fact that you guys are here today with Job Club, you're doing that part. You're receiving the resources, community resources that are available. I have spiritual resources that are available, written up there. The reason why is because that's a part of it. I believe that we're all spiritual people. So please be willing to receive the spiritual resources that are available. I don't know what church or synagogue or mosque or whatever it is that you attend, but please be willing to receive spiritual help, because we are spiritual beings. Very, very necessary that you do that. Human resources, family and friends, people that are around you. They're not a resource to be used, but they are, because they don't want you using nobody. But they're a resource that's available. Somebody to talk to. For some of you, you don't really do a lot of talking. Sometimes a human resource is just somebody to sit there with you. Some of you may be like that. I don't want nobody really talking, but I would just like for them to be there. So please take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And I believe that is all. My final statement, I always say at the end, you were born to do more than just go to work, pay bills, and die. So live life on purpose. Thank you very much.